Enjoy the video. Amidst the storms of life, there is a woman who silently continues to move forward with a heart full of love and extraordinary determination. That is Tu Qian. Today's video will reveal the secrets behind that strength, where lies an inspiring story about humanity, tolerance and the desire to live beautifully amidst many challenges. Please follow the story. After eating nearly half a bowl of porridge, Mrs. Tam began to feel better. Her complexion also became rosy again. Jack and Tu Qian sat on both sides of the bed, watching her eat, feeling relieved, as if the burden of staying awake all night had been lifted. The morning atmosphere in her house, although simple, was filled with love. A moment later, Jack brought out a small breakfast tray that his mother had prepared early, with vegetable soup, braised meat and a few boiled eggs, plus a plate of pickled cabbage that Mrs. Tam often pickled. The three of them gathered around the small table in the familiar kitchen. Tu Qian helped Mrs. Tam sit on a chair, placing a thin towel behind her back for her to lean on. The breakfast took place in a warm atmosphere, the sound of spoons clattering against bowls, Jack asking if she wanted another piece of egg, Tu Qian reminding Jack not to pour her soup that was too hot. All created a gentle symphony of a home with loved ones. After eating nearly half a bowl of porridge, Mrs. Tam began to feel better. Her complexion also became rosy again. Jack and Tu Qian sat on both sides of the bed, watching her eat, feeling relieved, as if the burden of staying awake all night had been lifted. The morning atmosphere in her house, although simple, was filled with love. A moment later, Jack brought out a small breakfast tray that his mother had prepared early, with vegetable soup, braised meat and a few boiled eggs, plus a plate of pickled cabbage that Mrs. Tam often pickled. The three of them gathered around the small table in the familiar kitchen. Tu Qian helped Mrs. Tam sit on a chair, placing a thin towel behind her back for her to lean on. The breakfast took place in a warm atmosphere, the sound of spoons clattering against bowls, Jack asking if she wanted another piece of egg, Tu Qian reminding Jack not to pour her soup that was too hot. All created a gentle symphony of a home with loved ones. After finishing eating, Jack cleaned up the dishes and washed them, while Tu Qian helped Mrs. Tam back to bed. She still held Tu Qian's hand tightly, her voice trembling. "Qian, I don't have any blood relatives, but with you, I feel like I'm richer than many people." Tu Qian squeezed her hand tightly, softly said, her voice filled with emotion, "You are my family. As long as I have you, I still have a home." The sunlight was higher, shining straight through the small window, shining on the thin blanket covering Mrs. Tam, and also covering the two people beside her. A morning full of memories, where wounds were healed by love, and the past became a fire to warm the present. The gentle noon sunlight filtered through the leaves, shining down on Mrs. Tam's backyard, where Jack and Tu Qian were busily preparing to boil water for her to make medicine. The small garden, covered with rows of fresh green vegetables and old flower bushes that Mrs. Tam planted many years ago, although not cared for much, still retains its rustic and warm soul. The wood stove is nestled under the shade of an old grapefruit tree. Next to it is the familiar kettle that Mrs. Tam still uses to boil herbal water for steaming when the weather changes. Jack is chopping dry wood, his movements decisive, occasionally turning to look at Tu Qian, the girl sitting next to the stove, her eyes looking far away, her hands gently turning each bunch of lemongrass leaves, lime leaves, ginger leaves that she has just picked from the garden. The flickering fire in the stove shines on her face, making her eyes suddenly become dreamy, filled with a bit of wistfulness. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the faint scent of fresh leaves and the scent of burning wood. Tu Qian unconsciously clasped her hands together, as if trying to hold back something that had suddenly come to mind. "Jack, I wonder how the cats and dogs on the farm are doing," she said softly. her voice low, her eyes still not leaving the thin smoke rising from the stove. Jack was bending down to add more fire. When he heard that, he stopped and looked up at her. Do you miss them? Tu Qian nodded slightly. Her eyes seemed to be following an image in the distance. Yeah, I miss them sticking around me every time I come home. There's Vang, who always watches over me wherever I go. And the kittens, they must be grown up now. She smiled lightly, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes. It's been raining and windy these past few days. I wonder if they've been properly sheltered. I just hope the construction worker is still paying attention and taking care of them. Jack sat down next to her, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. I understand. Those little creatures are also part of our family. I'll call someone to check them over. Make sure they're eating, drinking, and sleeping properly. Tu Qian turned to look at Jack, her eyes softening. She nodded slightly, then smiled, but that smile couldn't hide the longing that was quietly growing in her heart. I just feel sorry. I've taken care of them since they were little, and now that I've been gone for a few days, my heart is restless. Jack held her hand, squeezing it gently. We'll go back to the farm soon. Mrs. Tam is feeling better. I'll bring her back to live with me so she'll have someone to keep her company. And the kids will definitely be happy to see you back. The fire in the kitchen crackled, the light reflecting on the two people's faces, adding a loving silence to the simple everyday life. In that moment, the affection for small, sincere things, from a grandmother to cats and dogs, became a silent thread connecting them together, with a love that did not need to be expressed in words. The next morning, the gentle sunlight shone through the window, covering Mrs. Tam's small room with a layer of warm light. The sound of birds chirping in the garden mixed with the scent of the pot of thin porridge boiling on the stove, bringing a peaceful feeling. In contrast to the anxiety of the night before, Mrs. Tam was much more alert. Her face was no longer pale. Occasionally she even joked a few sentences, which made Jack and Tu Qian somewhat reassured. After feeding her breakfast and cleaning up, Jack pulled the bamboo chair closer to the bed, sat down next to her. Tu Qian sat on the other side, still holding Mrs. Tam's hand, her eyes full of longing. This lady, Jack spoke, his voice gentle but full of sincerity. We have thought about wanting you to come back to the farm to live with us for a while. Being here alone, when you are sick and no one knows. We are very worried. Tu Qian nodded in agreement, gently squeezing her skinny hand. That's right, Grandma, I worry about you a lot. Stay with me, I'll take care of you. Chat with you for fun. I can't bear to leave you here alone like this forever. Mrs. Tam looked at the two of them, her eyes quiet, then smiled gently. She shook her head slightly. I know you love me, but I'm used to living here. The bed, the house, the grapefruit tree in the backyard, the sound of the neighbors' chickens, everything is familiar. If I move, I probably won't be able to stand it. Jack was about to say something but stopped, quietly looking at her. Tu Qian was silent for a while, then said softly, but if you don't want to leave, then for now, you can come to my house to stay for a few days. The farm is still being repaired after the storm. It's a mess, not convenient to live there. You come to my house to rest for now. Wait until it's done, then we'll figure out what to do next. Mrs. Tam shook her head again, this time more firmly. Okay, my child, your house is really comfortable. You guys are happy, but I'm not used to it. I still have some neighbors here. When I get better, I can go to the market and cook by myself. I'm happy to have my children and grandchildren come over to visit me like this. Tu Qian looked at her, her eyes filled with tears. Her heart choked. She knew that Mrs. Tam was a determined person, and that it was hard to change her mind. Even so, she still tried to gently plead, but what if you get sick again? No one will know. No one will take care of you. I'm so scared. Mrs. Tam gently patted the back of Tu Qian's hand, her voice slow but warm. I know you love me. You worry about me, but we have to accept old age and weakness. My child, as long as you guys still remember me, still come over. I feel warm. Don't force me to leave the place where I've lived for decades. It's my home. Jack sighed, turned to look at Tu Qian, his eyes thoughtful. Well, I think I'll have to go home. I still have a lot of work to do at the construction site. The workshop is still messy. Let's finish it and then come visit you. Tu Qian nodded slightly, her eyes looking sadly at Mrs. Tam. She held her hand again. Her voice choked. Promise me. If anything goes wrong, you have to call us immediately. Anytime is fine. Jack also walked closer, sat down by the bed, and carefully instructed. Remember to take your medicine on time. Don't go out in the wind too much. If anything unusual happens, call us immediately. I'll tell Uncle Hong and your mother to come by from time to time. Don't hesitate to call us. Okay? Mrs. Tam nodded, her mouth smiling but her eyes shining with emotion. I know, you guys are so worried. I'm happy. When you're done working, remember to come back. Don't make me wait. Tu Qian smiled sadly, leaned down and hugged her. The hug was long. I love you so much. Jack also bowed to her. Then together with Tu Qian packed up their belongings and carried them out to the yard. Before stepping out of the gate, both of them turned back and waved one last time. Mrs. Tam stood at the threshold, waving her hand, her eyes lovingly following each step. The car started and slowly rolled out of the familiar alley. In the rearview mirror, Mrs. Tam's figure gradually disappeared behind the thick green hedges. Tu Qian turned her head back, her eyes still filled with regret. Her hand tightly clasped Jack's. When you have time, let's come visit your grandmother again. Jack nodded, his eyes looking straight ahead. Yes, of course. The sky that day was clear. The rays of sunlight spread across the familiar village road. Although they still had worries in their hearts, both of them knew that love, if maintained, would always guide them back to the people they loved, at any time.
Ngày ấy khi Từ Tiên còn là một cô bé nghèo từ vùng quê xa xôi lên thành phố học nghề, 938 là người đã mở rộng vòng tay đón cô. Cô còn nhớ như in ngày đầu tiên mình đặt chân đến khu nhà trọ tồi tàn ấy. Trong tay chỉ có vài bộ quần áo mang theo người. Trời hôm nào cũng mưa lạnh và ẩm ướt chẳng khác gì ngày hôm nay. Cô ngồi co ro trước hiên trọ chẳng biết đi đâu về đâu thì bà Tám, một phụ nữ lớn tuổi, dáng người nhỏ nhắn, tóc bạc trắng, đã mang cho cô một chiếc áo ấm và một chén cháo nóng. Bà bảo con mưa thế này mà không ăn thì lạnh lắm. Từ hôm đó hai người thân nhau, dù không phải thịt nhưng bà chăm sóc Từ Tiên như cháu ruột. Mỗi khi cô về muộn, bà đều lấy phần cơm chờ sẵn lúc cô uống và ngồi bên cả đêm, đắp khăn, nấu nước gừng, nấu cháo, ca những lúc Từ Tiên buồn vì bị người ta chê cười hay thất bại. Và cũng là người